guys. What's up?
Hello.
I
Hello,
am
hello.
Kelly Pissenly Keen.
And I am Dawn England Shite Glenn.
We did not, if you're watching this, we did not coordinate our
No,
outfits today, by the way.
complete coincidence.
Yeah, we both just randomly well, mine's more of a houndstooth than a plaid.
Okay,
But
yeah, mine is, yeah.
But we're both wearing red and black. I'm wearing houndstooth. Dawn is wearing plaid. But yeah, it's kind of funny.
It just shows that, like Daryl and Carol, we have a cosmic connection.
Yes. Yes, we do. I'm a little sad that the season of the Book of Carol is over.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because I'm sad that the show itself is over, but I'll miss podcasting about the show with you.
Yeah.
Until next,
Yeah.
but
Until next year.
Yeah. I would like to do, eventually do some bonus Walking
Yeah.
Dead Daryl and Carol stuff.
Yeah.
But
we have had a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Much better time than Jazzy and I have had during covering Teacup. We just recorded the finale for Teacup yesterday. We're like, yeah, we don't think we're gonna do this anymore. The show is great.
Yeah.
It's just not a good show to podcast about.
It's just sneeze.
Ooh.
Oh no, it's gone away. It's okay, carry on, but I will probably sneeze at some point. I do apologize.
No, that's okay. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. Welcome if this is your first time joining us. We are Cyborg Queen Media and the Daryl Dixon podcast. We put all of our podcasts on the Cyborg Queen Media YouTube channel, and you can find all of our podcasts individually wherever you listen to podcast apps. So we've got this one, the Daryl Dixon podcast, which I'm thinking we may be changing the name.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So just keep an eye on it, and we'll let you guys know, because I can't imagine that we're going to be keeping that name.
No.
It's not really the Daryl Dixon show anymore.
No, it's definitely not. And we are not the Daryl Dixon show.
No, we're not.
He's not our focus.
Yeah, exactly. But you can also catch the Teacup TV podcast. Like I said, we're probably not going to be recapping it for season 2, assuming it comes back, but we may be doing a live after show, which we'll put on that podcast. So the podcast isn't going anywhere. Just the recaps might be going away. We also have Death Crunch, a Hysteria podcast. That's a binge show on Peacock, but you can also watch it. If you're in the US, you can also watch it weekly on the USA Network. And of course, we have the From Series podcast, which we are covering right now. And that's like the number one obsession in my life right now. And we do weekly recaps and Sunday night after shows for that. So check that out. If you're free on Sunday nights after the episode, check us out on YouTube, because we are giving away a David Alpay cameo at the end of the season. Also, if we get enough people in the chat, we'll give away the David Alpay cameo giveaway is happening on the during the finale after show. So you just need to be present for that and active in the chat, but you'll get a separate entry for every one of our From videos you comment on and every after party where you're active in the chat. And if we get enough people in our chat at the next after show, we will give away one of these nifty cat shirts that Jade is wearing, that he wears frequently, because he's the Daryl Dixon of From. He never changes his clothes, ever. He does sometimes, but yeah. He's too busy being a mad scientist. He doesn't have time to change clothes. But yeah, let's get into it. This episode is called Au revoir les enfants, which means goodbye children.
Hooray!
Yeah. enjoyed this one more watching it back than I initially did.
Yeah.
Um,
And,
but
unfortunately, Norman Reedus has set it up to fail because he
yeah,
said it's the best episode ever of anything ever. And it's not, but it's not bad at all. But it's
no,
not.
yeah, yeah, for sure. But yeah, let's start. So we the cold open we have a little bit of a beef with.
Oh yes.
So okay, so it opens with Laurent blowing on a dandelion, and he's sitting outside at the racetrack, and Daryl comes up to him with a guitar and says, "You know, if where I'm from, if you blow on those to set your wishes free." And Laurent says that in French it's pissenlit because it means piss the bed if you eat one.
Which is also, as I said to Kelly, is what it's also called in Scotland. It's called a pee the bed.
That's so funny. I've never heard that before. Um, but yeah, so Daryl just kind of laughs, and then he hands him a guitar that he found in a trunk. I don't know what happened to well, like yeah, I guess I mean Laurent was captured, so he doesn't have his guitar
Yeah,
anymore. But he says he tried to, fix up the strings for him. And he just kind of starts, noodling around on it. And Laurent uh, Laurent says that Perjean taught him how to play, and that he was really into 70s rock, like Neil Young and Joan Baez and Led Zeppelin. And he says to Daryl, "You're not coming, are you?" And he says, "Well, somebody has to stay behind, so it makes sense that it's me." Which I guess it does.
yeah,
I mean, if somebody has to stay behind, it definitely does make more sense for it to be him.
yeah.
But yeah, it's he says he says, "Want to talk about it?" Laurent's like, "Why won't you change your mind? Every time anything good happens, something bad comes to ruin it." And Daryl reminds him that it's only temporary, and he'll be following back. And Laurent says, "America is a long way away and you'll be alone." And Daryl says, "He's been alone before lots of times, like in the woods for
Yes.
years, like a wild animal." um, but he promises him that he'll make it back. And Laurent says, "You can't promise that." And Daryl says, "Look at me. I can promise that. I'm going to see you again."
No, you can't, Donald.
Yeah. I hate that. I hate that so
I
much.
hate that so much. What he said to Judith in the main series when she was scared about him leaving, he said, "I can't promise I'm always going to be here,
Yeah.
but and that's the correct thing to say because he can't promise. Can't promise. He can't even promise he's going to be around the corner in 10 minutes in that world.
Yeah.
So you can't promise you're going to make it back to America. Ugh! I don't know
Yeah.
why they've made him make all these promises to Laurent. Like last week when he put him in the sort of the mausoleum, and he's like, "No, I will come back because when have I ever not? Well, until the time you don't. That's how it works, Daryl." So
Yep.
I just don't know why they've made him make these promises to this kid.
I mean, he promised Carol he'd be back in about a week and ended
And
up in
look what
France.
happened. Exactly. Yes.
I mean, never could have expected that.
Nope.
Um, anyway, Laurent starts playing "Can't Always Get What You Want," and he starts singing, and Daryl starts singing along too, and he starts crying. And oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the beef that we have with this.
Yes.
Initially, Daryl was not supposed to be singing along.
Yeah.
And, songs have meaning in shows when they're used in this manner.
Yes.
And Daryl was not originally supposed to be singing along, but what happened is Louis, the kid that plays Laurent, was nervous about singing on camera. And so Norman Reedus suggested that he sing along with him um, to make him feel more comfortable, which is sweet.
Very
But
sweet.
totally changes the meaning of everything.
Exactly. It completely changes. And the fact that when they focused on Daryl's face as he's singing makes it be about Daryl. It's about what he's thinking and feeling. And his tears and smile. He's smiling but crying. He's like doing that smiley cry thing, and it's like, so what is Daryl feeling? It's so obtuse. What's he thinking about that he thought he wanted, but actually he needed? Completely unclear. No idea.
Yeah.
But it was meant to be about Laurent, that Laurent, wanted to stay in France with Isabel and Daryl, but now he's going back to America where he's safer and will be protected, and he's going to go with Ash, which means he will have a father figure who's more willing than Daryl.
Yeah.
And that's what he needed. That's what he needed. So it makes sense for Laurent. For Daryl, who knows? Who knows what we're meant to? Yeah.
Yeah. Way to shit all over Laurent's story, man.
Yeah. Steal the limelight by singing.
Yes.
Whoever thought we would see Daryl singing in The Walking Dead, but there you go.
Yeah. Very strange.
Yeah.
So that's the cold open. Then when we come back, Ash is working on the plane, and Carol comes up to him and asks him how it's looking, and he just kind of ignores her. He's not happy with her.
No.
And she tells him that she's not coming with him, and she wants him to take Daryl and the boy. And Ash gets annoyed, and he's like, "Why should I help any of you? Like, you brought me here under bullshit pretenses, and now I'm doing you a huge favor." And Carol's like, "Yeah, I get it. You wanna punish me, but I'm already punishing myself enough." And she asks him to please not take it out on them. And then we see Fallou and a woman named Akila on horses.
Where's she come from? Who knows? You won't find out.
No clue. I'm assuming that they knew each other.
I wonder if she's from the Nest.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. But they're on some horses with Codron and Nadine, and she says the chateau was turned into a hospital complex. At one point it was a mental institution, and Blue says there'll be some supplies there that we can find. And Akila says that the horses, they stop their horses, and Akila says that her horse is thumping, which I've never heard that.
I've never heard that. Yeah. That's why I wrote a question mark on it. I was like, what? But that's what she says, and that's what the closed caption says. So I'm assuming it's a horsey term.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert equestrian, but I've ridden horses many times. I've never heard that. But yeah, it's basically that means that she's getting dehydrated. And Blue says, "You know a lot about horses," and she said mules actually. And I learned that mules and horses actually communicate the same way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have the same. They communicate with their ears a lot. They use their ears a lot to communicate, and it's very similar. But she said her dad had a farm in Algeria before they emigrated, and he asked if she had any siblings, and she says she had 2 brothers who are both dead now, and a sister, Jamila, and who she lost track of. And Fallou says that he came on his own from Cameroon, and he didn't have anyone to lose when the Hunger Ones came. And Codron says, "Come on, let's go. The women can stay with the horses." And Akila's like, "Hey, shouldn't we stay together?" and Codron's like, "It's dangerous inside." And she's like, "Yeah, my point exactly." But in all fairness, we don't really know those characters.
No.
We know that Codron and Fallou are a couple of badasses.
Yes. It's such a strange scene, that, because it feels like you've dropped in and you feel like you're going, have I missed something? Why are they going here? What do they need supplies for?
Yeah.
There was so much to it. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why we're seeing this right now. I'm always glad to get more Fallou. We always want more Fallou. But I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't understand they could have added a few lines in, oh, now that everybody from the nest is showing up injured, we need to get medical supplies. Something like that would just help me get a handle on what they're actually doing there. Would have been
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little confusing.
Yeah.
But they're going up the steps and Codron says to Fallou, "Love at first sight, huh?" And then he laughs, which is cute. So maybe
Yeah.
they didn't actually know each other, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, of course. Love at first sight. Yeah, so she must be somebody new.
Yeah.
Must be.
So they're going up the stairs and they see a walker in a wheelchair and they find some walkers that are strapped to beds. And Codron makes the joke, he says French healthcare system, best in the world.
That's the second joke they've done about the French healthcare system, because there's all about with Janae's backstory. I'm like, oh, okay. They've got strong feelings about the French healthcare system.
Apparently, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm in America, so
yeah, I don't even know what it is. I don't know what the French healthcare system is to comment on it. So.
We just don't go to the doctor here.
No.
That's pretty much our healthcare system.
Yeah.
Unless you have a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is, though, like, if you end up having a medical emergency, then usually like the rest of your hospital bills are paid for the rest of the year, because at least we have the out-of-pocket maximum. But
yeah.
You're like, anyway,
I've been ill once this year. I might as well go the whole hog and go a few more times.
Exactly. That's always me. Like, if I have to have a surgery, I'm like, right after, as soon as I'm ready to get out of the house, I'm like, okay, I need to make appointments with this doctor and this doctor and this doctor. Need to get everything taken care of now before the end of the year.
While we're under the max, that's it.
Yeah. But so Fallou goes down the hall and Codron sees that one of the walkers in the bed is wearing a cross, and he takes it off. And Fallou is we then see Fallou in the hallway, who's he's on his knees and he's been captured by two of the guerriers. And they another one grabs hold of Codron, and Sabine asks him about the plane. And Codron tells her that the cause is dead, and she said, "No, just Jacinda's the new Janae."
Yes. And Jacinda's there like, ta-da! I'm still alive.
And she's the new Janae and the new Lasang.
Yes, all in one.
Yes, exactly. But Fallou tells them that they would have left by now, and she says, "No, we've been watching, and no plane's flown over yet." And the one of the guerriers tells Codron, "Speak," and Sabine says, "I think you both know. So, do we need to kill your friend?" And they're gonna shoot Fallou, and one of the guards falls to the ground, and it's Akila saving them with the bow and arrow. See, you should have stuck together, and it's good that they were in there.
Akila's the French Carol. She shows up right in the last second.
Exactly.
And saves the men.
Akila ex machina.
Yeah.
Deus ex machina. But Codron kills the guy on his knees. Sabine escapes, and Akila goes, "Men."
I love that line.
I know. I love that.
I want a whole series just of Akila. Forget everybody else. Give her own series based entirely on this one scene.
Yes, exactly. And Codron says they need to warn Dixon, and Fallou tells him they don't know where they are, and Codron says, "Actually, no, I do."
I can't remember how he does.
I don't know.
I was like, did Carol tell him when she met him? But I don't think she did she?
Wait, didn't he run into Ash at one point?
I don't know.
God. The show does a bad job with reminding us about stuff.
Yes, they really have. It really feels like there was a lot cut out of this episode, I have to say. I feel like there's a lot missing. I don't know if that's basis in truth or that it was just bad writing, but it feels like there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's funny because the previously on recaps in From were always complaining that they're like 10 minutes long. At least like you remember everything relevant.
Yes, we could have done with that. Like, how did Codron know? Because the only way he I was going to say he went back to, he's been at Fallou's place. Did anybody? Yeah, Carol was there, so maybe she told. Oh, she did. He did. Right, it's all come clear to me now. When Carol was telling Fallou that Ash was missing, Codron was sitting at the table with them.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's right.
Fallou and Codron both know, so I don't know why Fallou went. I don't know where they are. He does.
He wasn't paying attention. He was.
Yeah.
He was. Yeah. That's funny.
Oh boy, that is funny.
But back at the plane, Ash is still ignoring Carol, and Laurent's sitting with her, and Ash walks out, and Laurent says, "I don't think he likes me," and Carol tells him that he's just got a lot on his mind, and Laurent asks if it's because she lied to him, and she says something like that, and Laurent says, and now you feel bad too. People shouldn't lie, and she says, no, they shouldn't, and then Laurent says, but I'm glad you did, and
Yay.
yeah, because otherwise you might not be there, and neither would Daryl. And Carol says, you have a really special way of seeing things, don't you? And she said, you're going to make a lot of friends at the Commonwealth. And Laurent says, do you think Daryl will be able to make it back by himself? And Carol looks surprised.
These two idiots.
Yeah.
They're both like, no, you go, no, you go, no, you go. They're both as being as selfless and noble as each other. I was writing my review earlier today, and I was saying, the problem is with Carol, you know that's 100% just total self-effacing nobility. She wants Daryl to be with Laurent, and that's more important to her than her being with Daryl. But with Daryl, because we've had all this crap about him saying, I was wrong to want to go home. I was wrong to want to go home. So you're like, well, is he staying here for some other reason? Is he, even though Laurent's going to be gone and Isabel's be gone, does he still think he belongs in France? So because of all that messiness with them saying that, it sort of, this loses a bit of its impact. But they're both still idiots.
he's gonna go back to the abbey and go live out his days as a nun.
Yes, please, Daryl. You'll go put on one of those wimples, fake hair in a nice tied back, put a wimple on, and we'll find him gardening in an abbey.
Oh my gosh. Jeez. But Daryl and Ash are looking for plane parts, and Daryl asks him what he's looking for, and he says they need hoses so they don't have to stop during the crossing. And Daryl's like, yeah, Greenland. I heard about that. And
it would have been funny if we'd never seen what happened in Greenland. It was just constantly referred to.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard you were almost a sex slave.
Yeah.
And he comes over by Ash, and Ash is just kind of annoyed with his presence. It was like, "Hey, I don't need your help." And he uh he asks about Laurent's parents, and Daryl says that he's an orphan, and he says that he's sorry about his kid because Carol. He tells him Carol told him everything, and he tells him that he was there when she lost Sophia, and wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I hated this so much. I so Ash says, "You lose a wife or a husband, you're a widower or a widow. If you lose a kid, there's no word for that." And Daryl says, "Maybe that's too hard a thing to name." This exact conversation has been in like 10,000 different TV episodes.
I was going to say that same thing. Yeah. How many times have we seen that in TV shows?
Oh my God.
Just, yeah.
Stop. This is like the most tired exchange
Yes.
that I've ever heard. It's God, every time I hear it.
I just wish that they'd been having it starts to get there when Daryl says about, he was there when Carol lost Sophia. I just would have liked Ash to be saying to Daryl, what's Carol's deal? Why did she lie about Sophia just to find you? You're perfectly capable. Look at you, There's all these conversations that you feel they should be having, which are just pushed to the side for these weird, unrealistic exchanges about the philosophy of death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She they should have passed Daryl off like Victor on From, like he's just a 10-year-old boy in a man's body.
In an adult body. Yeah. That might have worked.
But I get to just see Daryl carrying around a little lunchbox. But yeah, Ash asks Daryl if he has kids, and Daryl says no. And he says, "Well, maybe that's a good thing that you don't have that worry." And he's like, "No, I worry about plenty." And
oh yes, let's suddenly remember that there's kids he cares about back home because he's forgotten.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so Daryl tells him, you came here to save a kid. You still can. And they go through the gate, and a walker comes through, and Daryl pulls back and shuts the gate, and Ash says, "Well, I guess I'm kind of glad that you're coming with us."
Yeah.
Oh God. But so Anna and one of the dancers are in the back. It's the
Who
dancer.
doesn't even get a name? She doesn't even have a name on the titles. I feel so bad for her. Look, you've shoved her in a car with Anna so Anna can have some backstory. At least give her a name.
Yeah, and this is the second episode we've seen her in.
Yeah.
Maybe more. We just didn't notice her before. I don't know, but we know she's been in at least 2 episodes.
Yes.
But so Anna and Dancer Lady are in the car. And Anna says, I used to live on this street when I first moved here. And she says she ran away from a little village to be a singer. And she hated her mother for not believing in her. And she said maybe she was just trying to protect her. And the dancer says, if only she could see you now. And Anna says, I wonder if she'd be ashamed. And she dancer asks her where she is, and she says, I don't know, back home, I guess. And
it was like they suddenly went, oh no, quick, she needs some backstory. Let's just write this little scene which bears no relation to anything else.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
Yeah.
They get shot by the carriers, and the the dancer pulls out a gun, and Anna takes it from her. She's like, you're gonna get us killed. And she gets out of the car, and Jacinda's there, and she's like, you might remember me. I'm from that cesspool that you operate. And Anna says, yeah, you came with a man and left alone.
cat fight.
Yeah. Um, and she says that she wanted the same thing that he wanted, and Anna's like, I didn't help him. Why would I help you? And the uh, the Gary Air shoots Anna's driver, and Anna just says, "Ouch."
Yeah.
So funny. Um, Jacinda tells her that she knows that they have an airplane, and she says, "Help me find it, or your friend's pretty face goes." And I love this. And Sabine's got the gun on the dancer, and I love this. Anna's like, "See, this is why I don't make friends."
Yes. I love that.
and she says she doesn't give without getting something good in return. And Jacinda says, what about your life? And Anna's like, I could take it or leave it. Jacinda asks her what she wants, and Anna says she just wants to go home back to where her people are. And so if I help you find the boy, I get the plane and the pilot. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
she wants the pilot for sure. Yes.
yeah. Yeah. God, like she's okay. She's helped Laurent get away twice now,
Hmm.
2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
a couple of times at least, and now she's promising to hand him over. Like, I don't
Because
know.
she wants a plane to go back home to her village in presumably in France. There was nothing to indicate she wasn't French, which she
Yeah,
could clearly drive to or walk to because she's got a car.
yeah.
And
I'm just
Carol's travelled France in a couple of days. You can do it.
yeah. I'm just not understanding this.
No,
But
they're yes, they're thrusting motivation at her at the last minute just to bring all
yeah,
the things together. And they could have
yeah,
just left her alive at the demi monde. It would have been fine.
yeah, yeah. None of this was necessary.
No.
Um, but so Ash and Laurent are in the plane, and Ash is showing him all the controls while Daryl watches. And Carol comes over, and she says he's pretty good with him, huh? And Daryl says, yeah, yes. Carol says, I brought you something, and she hands him his crossbow. So
Yay.
he's, yeah, he was very excited about that. And
More excited than he was about Carol. Let's just say.
yeah. And Carol laughs, and he's like, "You lugged this all the way here?" And she's like, "Well, he allowed one carry-on." So, um, and she goes to talk to him. She says, "Daryl, listen," and he says, "I know what you're gonna say. You ain't staying." And Carol is, Carol is obviously not having that, and she's like, "It's the right thing for everybody, Daryl." And Daryl says it's already settled, and I'm on team Daryl with this one. Like,
Yeah.
if anyone should stay, it should be him.
Yeah.
But and Carol says, "I'm going to get you home, even if it means me staying behind, because if anything happens to you, I'm not going to be able to live with myself." Um,
Yeah. Carol just gets on the plane, goes home, drops him off, comes straight back again.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because she's not leaving him.
Oh, and and Ash pipes in, and he's like, he's right. Daryl has been here longer on the ground, so he knows how to survive. And she's like, you know the plane, so you know how to help me, which is another great point.
A
But
very good reason, yes.
yeah, and but Carol still has to try to push back a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but Ash says it's about whatever can get the kid back to a safe place. And Daryl tells her, "Well, looks like you're outnumbered."
Mhm.
And they hear some car noises, and they all get behind the plane, and they point their weapons at the door. And it's Fallou and Codron. And they tell her that Jacinta is still alive, and they're coming for Laurent. And Carol asks Ash if he's ready to go, and Daryl's like, "We got to go right now." And Daryl asks Fallou to help him take down the wall that Ash had built up there. And so they push the plane outside, and Ash says he's got to test the engine. Anna and Jacinta and all their people show up at the racetrack, and Anna says that she tells them that the plane is on the other side of it. And they won't see you coming this way. Sabine sends the Guerriers inside with Anna leading the way, and she sees a poster that says "Visit Paris," and she starts remembering her conversation with Laurent back in season 1 about the Eiffel Tower and how it will be beautiful again someday. And she told him, I hope you get to go someday. I hope you get to go home someday. And Sabine asks Anna which way, and Anna says through the garage, and then I'll take him to the track. And so Anna leads the way down the stairs, and to where Ash and Daryl are. And Jacinta says after you, and Anna walks through, and they're following through the garage, and they all draw their guns, and there's just like all this Walker chaos.
Yeah. I was like, I can't quite see what's happening. It's so dark, and there's walkers, and people are suddenly shooting. I can't quite see.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that Anna knew there would be walkers there, and she was deliberately leading them into the garage to the walkers to get attacked.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it seemed very deliberate when I was watching it. And so they're shooting everywhere, and Anna's like, just kind of hugging the wall. Jacinta gets bit on the arm.
Mm-hmm.
And Anna tries to escape through a door, and she gets through the gate and shuts them in, and Jacinta starts yelling at her, "You knew," and Anna tells her, Dixon will kill you, and Jacinta says, "No, God is on our side."
Yeah, it seems like it thus far, doesn't it, Jacinta?
Yeah. Yeah,
read the room.
Yeah. All this holy bloodshed.
Yes.
And Anna says God gave up on us a long time ago. And she gets taken down by walkers.
Farewell, Anna.
Yeah.
We knew you a bit more than we needed to now, but
Yeah. She was a fun character, though.
She was.
I liked her.
As I say, I wish they'd left her at the Diamond and alive, and they could have just had, because they didn't need all that. Jacinta could have found out where they are from Fallou's people and come. But didn't need to involve her in it. I would have liked to think she was still running the Demi-Monde and keeping all the men in place.
Yeah. Why did she have to die? I don't get it.
No.
So Ash and Laurent are in the plane, and they're taxiing it down their little makeshift runway. And Jacinta goes back upstairs. She's freaking out because she was bit, and she hears the plane, and they all just start running. And the plane is taking off, and it's taxiing down across the landscape. And Ash says that the carburetor is stubborn, and they gotta tweak it. And Daryl says that that's it. And Fallou and Codron are standing by, and they see a motorbike crossing the path, and they start yelling, and Carol says they found us. And Ash says, just give us some time to get down that runway. And they all start rushing. And Daryl grabs Laurent's shoulder and says, I'll see you soon, I promise.
Stop promising.
Yeah, I know. It's so stupid. And he gives him a hug. And the guys are all shooting. And Codron manages to take one out. And Fallou gets the other, and they're hiding in the horse stalls, and Laurent gets in the plane, and then Carol follows follows into the plane as well. And she looks back at Daryl, just looking really like,
God.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, she just really did not want to leave him behind.
No.
And Daryl just looks at her and nods and says, "I know, go."
So what was he I knowing? Was it Han Solo? Was he anticipating that she was going to say she loved him, or was that she going to say, I don't want to go, I'm not going to want to go, I don't want to leave you?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think it was a little bit of both, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Carol shuts the door and looks back again, and Daryl's still shouting at them to get the hell out of there. And the plane starts up, and Ash is very excited, and Daryl watches them take off, and he then joins Fallou and Codron, and Jacinta's watching from the car, and it's so funny because like she's just looking so dejected.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bitch, you've got a giant bite on your arm. Like, I mean, even if you cut it off at this point, I think it's too late. Like, you're dying.
And she's got like burn on her face as well from like one of them burners touching her. So yeah.
Yeah. Like it don't look sad about the plane. It's not
it's
not your problem.
Even if you had Laurent in front of you, he's not going to cure you. So you're doomed whatever.
Yes. Yeah, that cracked me up. But she actually like she lasted quite I don't know, maybe her jacket probably protected her from bleeding too much,
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it didn't look like a really bad bite, but
yeah. But where was I? Oh yeah, so the Codron tosses a hand grenade as more cars are showing up. And it's just a big firefight with like the plane trying to get out in the middle of it all. And Carol looks back and says to Ash, "Are we good?" And Ash says, "Yeah, we're good." And Daryl is watching the plane, and Ash pulls out the throttle and starts down the runway. And then the bike goes. Daryl sees the bike going, and he shoots at it. And then he shoots at it again, and he finally gets him. He finally gets the biker, which is convenient.
Yes.
Daryl's got to get on a bike at some point.
Yes, he's got to find a new bike.
Yeah. But, Ash looks back and is very happy, and he cheers, and he starts cheering, and the Daryl is like still fighting with these dudes, but eventually takes him out, and he his gun jams, and there's he takes out the Jeep that's heading toward the plane, and just then it finally takes off, and Ash yells, "Suck it, motherfucker!"
I love Ash in this scene. He just gets to go, yeah, swearing and shouting, motherfucker.
Yeah.
What a way to end your season. Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. I loved it. But then, the camera pans out, and there's no Carol.
Ta-da!
How did this happen?
Well, the first time I watched it, I was like, did she jump out of a moving plane? Come on. However, when I watched it back this time, there's a point where after she said to Ash, "Are you good?" And he says, "Yeah, we're good," where the plane turns at the end of the runway, so obviously to go back the way they'd come and like take a good run at it. And it sits still for like a few minutes, and Daryl, well, not a few minutes, but you know what I mean, 30 seconds or something, and Daryl's looking at it. So I'm assuming that is when she gets out and rolls into the grass at the side.
Gotcha.
because her side of the plane is like away from Daryl, so he can't see. So
Okay.
they did put it in. I'll give them that. They
Yeah.
did put in a moment where it could happen.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it just I've watched this 2 or 3 times, and I could not figure it out for the life of me. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you were
Yes.
able to figure it out.
But I can't remember if you said it, somebody else said it to me, that, you could see that had Melissa McBride not agreed to do another season, that could have been Carol's ending. She could have
Yeah.
left in the plane, gone back to America, and I could totally have seen that.
Yeah.
But I'm very glad that's not what happened.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Man. And this is this where you pick up?
I will take over. Yeah, they watch
All right.
the plane fly off,
Gotcha.
and Jacinta realizes, oh wait a minute, I've been bitten.
Yeah.
Everything's gone to hell. I'll just kill myself.
Yeah.
So she does, and
Finally, it dawns on her.
yes.
Oh.
And Daryl looks, and he saw that Carol had taken the shot that took out the guy, and he walks over to her, and they're just sort of smiling at each other, and he's like, I had that, and she's like, yeah, I know. I really, really wish they'd made more of that scene. I wish that he'd given her a little hug or whatever, and or said something like, "You're crazy. Why didn't you leave?" And she could just say, "As if I'm going to leave you." Just
Yeah.
something like that, as if I was going after I came all this way. Just a little bit more to make it more. There's just not been enough of Daryl reacting with gratitude that Carol is there, and I just would have liked to have seen it then.
Yeah.
So then we see some, again, beautiful shots of France as the Jeep with Codron and Fallou and Akila, apparently. I don't know where she was through all this, but apparently she was nearby. And in the Jeep, and Daryl and Carol on the bike, which is lovely, except we never got a close-up of it, which really irritated me. We only saw them from the distance, and I was like,
Yeah.
show us Carol happy on the bike. Come take it back to that episode, 10-1, where Carol and Daryl are riding through the trees, and Carol's like in bliss because she's with Daryl, and when they're talking about running away together. Anyway, that's just me being what I wanted. In my notes, I just wrote, "Why don't close up, you bastards?"
So funny.
So they stop at some safe place. It looks like a farmhouse or something. And Fallou says the people will be there by sundown. Codron asks, who are they? And Fallou says, it's a couple I met at the Demimonde. They can help us get to England. From there, you can get to America. Carol says, they speak English. And Fallou says, well, they're Scottish. So no. How very dare they? And here comes. I'm glad I'm reading out the bit with the only Scottish characters we've had in The Walking Dead, and I can give my opinion on the Scottish representation.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was funny.
It was. Oh dear. So the Jeep is overheating, and Akila's looking at it, and Fallou's like, oh, it's just like the horses, isn't it? And she said, oh, if only we had camels. I meant to say this. When the casting for season 1 came out, there was a lot of talk about they were looking for Algerian French people, and it seemed like there was going to be something about the Algeria, France, the war from the 60s and stuff. It never happened. I don't know what happened to that, whether that was in one of the different versions of the show and it got written out, but I thought, oh, that'd be interesting to learn about that, but no. Anyway.
By the way,
so,
if
yes.
if anybody is curious, camel burgers are delicious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've had was it alligator? One of the stores here sold sort of unusual meats, and it was very nice.
Yeah.
Just like chicken. So Fallou says, better in England, and she says, I went to England as a girl and the food was terrible. We're just fulfilling all the stereotypes in these conversations.
Yeah.
And Fallou says, still you could come with us. But Akila says, no, I like Paris. There's something very special surviving here. And she still hopes to find her sister. Just then, Angus and Fiona, I'll give them proper Scottish accents, arrive. And of course, everybody draws their gun on them. And Angus says, Fallou, maybe your pals can stop pointing those things at us. They brought a pheasant, and Fallou shows them he has a crate full of food and drink, which they will need to get through the checkpoint. They're going to go through the Channel Tunnel, which, for those who don't know, is a railway tunnel that passes under the English Channel, connects England to France. And apparently, there's checkpoints where you need pay your way to get across. Fiona says, this is a very true Scottish thing to say, is she says, good to meet yous. Scottish people say yous with a plural. So I thought, that was very
good. That's also, that's also kind of a Chicago thing too.
Yeah, yous guys. Yes. So Angus, looking at the supply, says, "Oh, that's plenty. Well, there's one bottle of wine too much. Let's enjoy it." So the next thing we see, they're all camped for the night. They're sitting around a fire, and they're talking, sharing their stories of who they are and where they've come from. Angus says they were in Edinburgh for the first few years, but Fiona wanted to get married, so they decided to go to France after the apocalypse. It makes no sense, but okay.
Yeah. So weird.
We were young and dumb. Yes, I agree. And Fiona says, I always had this dream about France, the history, the culture, the food. What was it like before the world turned to shite? Now, I just have to say this, as a Scottish person, yes, I would absolutely be saying I'm going to France for the food and the culture, but no Scottish person says they're going to France for the history. We have a shared history. We have as much history. I was like, no, that clearly was written by an American.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to go on about Scottish inaccuracies, so sit down and be prepared. Take notes.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely, I agree. It was written by an American.
I mean, I think the actors are both genuinely Scottish. Their accents seemed real to me, so they maybe, gave their own little advice. I don't know. But anyway, so Fallou then takes the spotlight, and I think this is perhaps one of the reasons why Norman Reedus spoke about this being the best episode ever. Is I think he was doing a Melissa and giving praise to the other actors, because a lot of the other actors take the spotlight in this episode far more than he does. We had Anna, we had Jacinta, we've got Akila, and here it's Fallou. He talks about his experiences when he lived in France before, that his neighbours were racist and they were always complaining that his food smelled too much and that he was too loud. And he said he worked in a hospital, so he came at all hours of the night and day, and they complained about that. But then when the world turned, that everybody stayed in their own flats and tried to get through it. And then one day his neighbour knocked at the door with his limp 2-year-old in his arms, and he thought she was dead, but no, just her airway had blocked, and Fallou saved her life. And even though the father didn't say anything, he saw gratitude. And Angus says, so the apocalypse put an end to racism. Yes, it's as simple as that.
Oh man.
Like, okay, this is the first time they've acknowledged, the racism that would still exist. And Fallou is an African man, and Akila is Algerian. They would have experienced racism. So I'm glad they've at least talked about it. But yeah. And Fallou says, this is the way it is. It's leveled the playing field. There's only two people now, the living and the dead. So that Akila seems to get uncomfortable, and she gets up and says she's going to get more wood. Fallou goes with her, and Carol gets up and walks out at the same time. And it was really weird, because it was like there was tension that Carol didn't want to be sitting with Daryl, and I was like, have I missed something? Why are they tense? I don't know. So Daryl watches her go, but he doesn't get up. And then we see Akila and Fallou are gathering the wood, and she says that his story made her sad. Fallou says, yeah, but the child lived. And Akila says, what happened to the family? He says, oh, they moved away, and I used the furniture for firewood. It got me through the winter. And just as he's speaking, Akila grabs him and kisses him. And she says, it's a goodbye in case, tomorrow I won't have the guts to do it. And Fallou says again, come with us. And she said, no, I can't, not without her sister. And she says, say goodbye again. And so they kiss. And it was a really lovely kiss and far better than Daryl and Isabel's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though we'd only just met Akila, and it was like, oh, where's this come from? Fallou's got a girlfriend all of a sudden.
But I would have kissed Fallou too.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It's Fallou.
It's Fallou. We totally get it, Akila. He's gorgeous and he's seems gentle and kind, but also kick-ass. What's not to like? We go back to the fire, and Codron and Daryl are the only two left sitting there. Daryl's still looking at Carol, who's outside, and Codron says, "I'm sorry about what happened with the nun." And Daryl, completely unbothered, says,
Oh God!
Because it's been a day, 2 days now, so he's totally over it. Yeah. He says, "Oh, she's probably better off where she is," which is true, because she's with some, he doesn't love her back, so that's awkward. So Daryl, Codron says, "Oh yeah, just like my brother," and he says, his name was Michelle. It's a very old name, and I used to laugh at that. It was so hard to see him as a walker, having to finish him off. And he said, in a way, you put an end to a part of yourself. And I was like, yeah, I can imagine that. So Codron gets up the courage to say, you never told me what happened when you killed Michelle. And Daryl says, well, I didn't. A girl beat me to it. And Codron's like, oh, what girl? And Daryl says, this skinny girl on the road, she was with an old guy who tricked me into thinking he's blind, and Codron remembers them. And he says, oh, she told me it was you. And Daryl's like, well, of course she would. Why would you say otherwise?
Yeah.
And I really liked this because Codron's like, what? So everything that's happened since Marseille, everything that has gone on with the Abbey and with the nest and everything, all of that needn't have happened. Because it's a metaphor for the entire story of the show.
Yep.
Because it's Daryl spends his whole time in France going, do I belong here? Is this where I should stay? And the answer is no. So
no, it really was. It really was. It was just all,
Yeah. All these people, hundreds of people died for nothing. Anyway.
Yeah, moral of the story, stay true to yourself.
Yes. Stay loyal, don't Yeah. And if somebody kills your brother, don't go after them and try and get revenge, because they might not have done it.
Yeah.
So Codron is playing with the cross and obviously contemplating forgiveness and whatnot. So Daryl then eventually goes outside to Carol, and she's standing looking up at the sky. She says, they'll be there by now. Ezekiel's probably showing Ash around the Commonwealth. Judith will be teaching Lauren how to use a katana. And Carol says, she's getting tearful, and she says to Daryl, it was never easy there. It never felt like home, which is huge statement. Because obviously they'd lived there for at least a year, probably 18 months or thereabouts. And I don't know if you remember the scene in season 11 when she's speaking to Maggie, and she says, she kind of makes clear she doesn't like it because she says, I never see Daryl. And so, she's saying that basically the Commonwealth never felt like home because Daryl wasn't there with her. When they were in Alexandria, they both lived in the Grimes house. And I don't know why they didn't stay in the same house in Commonwealth. It made no sense to me, but apparently they didn't. And Daryl says, it'll be different this time. We'll stay together. And I was like, okay, what do you mean by that, Daryl? Do you mean, yes, you're never going to leave again? Or are you going to start living together? Because that's going to be awkward if you get a girlfriend.
Yeah.
I don't know quite what it meant. And it was a bit like, it was just sort of passed by. He just says, oh, we'll stay together. And I'd be going, oh, okay.
Yeah, I was really confused by that whole thing too.
Yeah, tell me more about that. What do you mean by that? What are we, Dana? Yes, it's another one of those conversations where it's like they're not asking the questions that you would actually ask in that situation. I mean, it's sweet, but it's like, oh, I want to know more about this. But we pivot to talking about Sophia, and Carol says, I can't remember her face. I can only remember the version of her that came out of the barn. And the version she was before, the girl I sang with and read stories to, laughed with, that time has taken that away from me.
Yeah.
And that is so sad. And I suppose it's true because they have no visual, without photographs, without videos, it must be so hard. And I was thinking about Carol taking the dictaphone from last week and thinking, even if that's just all it is, I could understand her taking it, because if something happens to Daryl, she still has his voice on the tape, and how special that would be in their world.
Yeah.
But Daryl, is reassuring her. He rubs her arm, and she says, he says, it's more than that. It just seems like that is the way it is at the moment. And Carol says, I'm just tired, Like, yes, Carol, we feel the same way. And she says, it all just got churned up again. Sophia, Lizzie, Henry, by which we can now assume that Daryl knows all about Lizzie, and Carol's talked about it off scene, and we're very annoyed about that.
Yeah.
Why did we never get? Yeah, for years everybody waited for Carol to tell Daryl about it, and it's happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, and yes, Daryl reassures her and says none of that was your fault, which is true, none of it was.
Yeah.
And he is very sweet in this moment, and he touches her face and says, "Come here," and gives her a hug. And she's crying onto his shoulder, and he says, "We keep going. That's what we do." I would have liked something a bit more meaningful in it as his reassurance, but yeah, better than nothing.
It was a sweet moment, though.
Yes. And so the next morning they're back on the bike and the Jeep, and they go along the beach again. It could have been a beautiful scene, but no, you just see from a distance. And they arrive at the Channel Tunnel, and Angus says, "Oh, it's a bit worse for wear, but we can still get through." It's 50 kilometres to England, and Fiona tells Carol it took 9 hours to walk. They start saying their goodbyes. Carol hugs Akila. I was like, oh, look, a female friend for Carol. Oh, I wish they were together. Akila says, we'll be here thinking of you guys. And Daryl says, come on, let's go. And Fallou falters. And eventually he calls to them and says, encourage, my friends. I know you'll get where you're going. He's decided to stay, and he says, I have a reason for staying now. And I was like, oh, call back to Dee Dee saying reasons are everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was really sweet. And then Codron and Fallou hugged, which I loved. I thought it was really cute. Their broship was really touching me, because then Codron says, I told you. Codron, like the actor Romain, is a big shipper, clearly.
Yeah. Clearly.
So Carol hugs Fallou and says thanks, and Daryl and him share a hug, and he says something in French, and as he walks away, Daryl says to Codron, what did he say? And Codron says, oh, he said you're brothers in arms. And Daryl said, oh yeah, I thought that's what he said. Codron's like, yeah, your French is getting better as you leave the country.
Yeah, exactly.
So they they go into the tunnel, and Daryl asks what England's like, and Angus says it's shite. That's accurate. A Scottish person would say that. But Fiona clarifies and says that the army took over pretty quickly in England and locked it down, and so it was in quite good shape when they left. Angus says, "Yeah, but they're English, so it's still fucking shite."
Hey, as somebody whose grandmother came here from Ireland and whose grandparents came here from Ireland, and who had a cousin who was a very well-known member of the IRA. Very well-known. Okay. George Harrison.
Oh yes.
He was a cousin of mine. It's yeah, I can sympathize. I can sympathize. I think most Irish people would say the same thing.
Yeah, Scottish and Irish people, and yeah. In fact, there's a little line coming up here, and I'll say something. But the way that Angus says "fucking" every other word is totally the way Scottish people speak. Say, we use it as just like taking a breath in between words, and so I thought that was very realistic. So as they're walking down the tunnel, Carol kicks a sort of mound of something. She's like, "Well, what's that?" Fiona says it's guano. It's the bat shit from. There's obviously thousands and thousands of bats, and she says, "Don't touch it because it's psychoactive. If you breathe in too much of it, you'll start hallucinating, and bad things can happen."
Yes? I just remembered I did have a name for today, and I went with Peace and Lee at the last minute. I just remembered now that my name was going to be Guano Psychosis.
Yes.
I'm just going to change it for the last few minutes.
Okay, that of course that brings it. That's the second time that Guano was featured in The Walking Dead, because that was remember Daryl and Ezekiel had a conversation about it while they waited for Carol to get off the boat. Oh, that's funny. There's as they're walking along, there's water coming through the ceiling, and Carol's worried about that, as we know she's claustrophobic, and she says that drowning is not on my to-do list. But Angus reassures her and says, "Don't worry, the pressure will kill you long before your hair gets wet." And I really like the delivery of that when Carol's like, "That's comforting, thank you." And then she says, "How much? How do you know how far we've gone?" And they said there's the yellow doors every half kilometre. And they see some lights up in the distance, and he says, "Oh, that must be the first checkpoint." And Fallou says, "Why is it so close to France?" And Angus says, "To keep out the fucking French." And I was like, hey now, Scottish people love the French. We have the connection between Scotland and France is called the Auld Alliance, and we love the French, so we'll have no French English unless it's rugby, and then everybody hates everybody else. So Fiona says, "Put your guns away," and we don't want to piss them off because it's the army. So Angus shouts, "They've got wine," and Fiona shouts, "God save the Queen," which I thought was very funny.
That was hilarious. That made me laugh.
Yes, hate to say it, she's dead. So they get up to what would be the checkpoint, and they see that everybody there is dead. The Angus cranks up a generator to shed some light on it, and Daryl says, "Oh, these people have all killed each other." And Carol's like, "Why would they have done that?" And Fiona says, "Well, the guano has made them paranoid. It makes you see things, and so they've lost their minds." Some of the dead bodies there's some gas masks, but a lot of them are damaged from the killing each other.
Yeah.
So they go through some more gates. I've just lost my place. And they see this glowing green everything, which when I saw the trailer, I assumed it was some radioactive type stuff, but no.
Yeah.
It's like And there's no plot reason for this to all glow. They just obviously thought it would look cool. So
Yeah.
Fiona explains it's bioluminescence, that some animals and plants generate their own light, and Daryl says, like fireflies. And I gritted my teeth. So there's walkers all lying or all around, and Daryl says, follow me in single file, keep quiet. But the effects of the guano start to kick in, and Carol's like getting dizzy, and everybody's appearing a bit bloody. Angus falls over, and a walker gets up, and Daryl sees the walker, and it's like, does it look like him? But it looks all weird, like its face is melting, so it's affecting him as well. Carol goes to kill one of the walkers, but she sees it's Sophia, and she's grabbed from behind, but she manages to stab that walker. Meanwhile, Codron looks at his gun, and it's turned into a sword, and the walker in
Yeah,
front
that
of
was so
him.
bizarre.
Yeah, why? It just did to show he's hallucinating, I guess. And the walker in front of him has become Michelle, and Daryl kills that walker to save Codron, but of course Codron goes, "No, you killed my brother," and starts attacking Daryl. So and
I
Daryl,
I don't know why I found this so funny, but the first time I watched it, I was just laughing my ass off. I don't know why. Like,
it
I
was a
couldn't
bit
I couldn't
farcical.
tell you. Yeah, I don't know why I found it as funny as I did. Like I don't think anybody did anything
No,
unintentionally funny or anything.
yeah,
Like for some reason I just found it hilarious.
especially when his gun turned into a sword. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
And Carol is following the Sophia Walker, and she goes through a yellow door into the service tunnel. And she's crying, and walkers start coming towards her. And one of them looks like Carol. She sees herself as a walker, and she's, that obviously sort of is a representation of her own suicidal feelings and her fear of dying and what's going to happen. So she's ready to stab the woman, but she falls to her knees, and the walker disappears. She's just there kneeling, crying. Meanwhile, we see Codron and Daryl fighting. Codron tries to stab Daryl. He maybe actually stabs him. I'm not
I think
entirely
he
sure.
did.
But yeah, and then it was like nobody mentions it. The rest of
Yeah.
the scene goes on, so I don't know what happened there.
He might not have been very deep. He might have
Yeah. Oh,
but
Daryl can brush off a stab wound. It's nothing.
yeah.
And just as he's going to, do more damage to Daryl, Codron sees Michelle walking away, and he goes off after him. Daryl goes to get up and to get the gas masks, but Angus greets him and knocks him out with his shovel. He says, there's not enough gas masks to go round, and me and Fiona have people waiting for us. We go back to Carol. She's still sobbing, and she sees Sophia in front of her. And it's Sophia looking like Sophia, not looking like a walker, which is obviously huge.
Yeah.
And Carol just says, "Here you are," which is so lovely.
Yeah.
It's just, Melissa McBride in this whole scene just makes everything worthwhile, Um, and she looks at Sophia, turns to walk away, and Carol says, "Has it been so long?" And Sophia runs and embraces her. She hugs her, holds her to her, and Carol says, "Can I come with you?" But Sophia pulls away, and their hands slowly part, and walks away, and Carol smiles. Meanwhile, Daryl's on the ground, still sort of dazed from Angus hitting him, and he looks to his right, and he sees Isabel. And it's the exact vision he saw the very first time he saw her, when she was walking towards him and saved him, and it's all blurry. She comes and she hovers over him in some ghostly fashion. It's weird, a really weird position. And she says, "You think you've had enough. You think there's nothing left inside you. You think it's over, but you won't die here." And she reaches at his neck and pulls up dog tags, which he looks at, which of course aren't really there, but
Yeah.
it's his grandfather's dog tags. And she says, "Not like him." And he looks and he sees his grandfather, who turns and walks away. And Isabel says, "Remember when we first met, what I told you, bet on hope." And she touches his face, and then she disappears, and that gives Daryl the impetus to get up, and he fights Angus and kills Angus and Fiona, and shoots them. I was like, oh, he just doesn't care now.
Yeah.
And he takes their masks, and he breathes in for a minute, and then he takes it off, and he sees Isabel again in the distance, and she turns and walks away and becomes Fireflies because she's Tinkerbell. And she says, "Encourage, Mr. Dixon," and yeah, so that was her. I don't know what she was there for, to give Daryl courage to keep going, and it's it's just all so messy. I just don't know what I'm meant to be thinking, or rather, what Daryl's thinking. Um,
Yeah.
Especially then, and this was the most disappointing, underwhelming ending. Completely infuriating. That Carol just walks up to him. He gives her a mask, and you go, "Are you all right? Yeah, you're all right. Where's Codron? I don't know. He ran off." And Carol says, "Let's go home." And they walk down the tunnel. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Really? That's it? Neither of you are going to say, 'Oh my gosh, you're still here. I just had something really, I don't know.'" Daryl could have said, "I know what I'm supposed to do now," and Daryl could have said, "Let's go home." That would have been nice.
Yeah.
There was a script leak from this scene, and there were more lines in it, and they cut them. Don't know why.
Yeah. There were quite a few lines that were
Yeah,
cut. Yeah.
including Daryl talking about Glenn and Meryl and Beth and all these other people that he felt guilt over, which showed that this was about for each of them, it was a representation of their guilt, and for Daryl, it was guilt over not saving Isabel, and instead it just becomes this kind of love appearance, and yeah, I don't like it. And then
Yeah.
it makes
Weird.
even less sense because then, as they're walking down the Channel Tunnel, the Rolling Stones, "Can't Always Get What You Want," appears again, and we're like, what did Daryl want? And what, is it that he wanted Isabel, and he thought he wanted Isabel, but he doesn't? Or is it that he thought he wanted to go home, but he is anyway? Is it that he thought he wanted Laurent, except he didn't want Laurent? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm really
I
looking
really don't
forward
know.
to. I'm hoping there'll be some of the insider type interviews about that, the
I
use
mean,
of the song.
I feel like I feel like he just wanted to go home, and
Yeah,
you know, and that's what it
yeah.
was.
Yeah, he
Um,
wanted to go home, and in fact, he didn't need. What he needed was Carol to be there, and that's whatever his want is. It's clear that the need is him with Carol.
yeah.
That's facing their future together in whatever manner that is. It's
Yeah.
just very confusing what the want side of things is. But I mean, it makes sense for Ash and Laurent. Both of them. The Ash thought he wanted to stay where he was in his homestead, and what he needed was Carol to bring him out and give him a new son. And Laurent thought he wanted to stay there, but he needed to go back to America where he was safe, and have Laurent and have Ash as his father. And even Carol, her want and need were the same thing. She thought she just wanted to find Daryl, but what she needed was to process this stuff about Sophia, and she's done that.
Yeah.
So she's got what she needs. But it's just, I just want to hear that more from Daryl's point of view. I just haven't heard enough of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I wish, like, it was so important that Carol not rely on him just as, like, as for her healing,
Yes,
like, for her to, like, for him to just make everything feel better. Like, it was
yeah,
important for her to actually heal on her own. But I wish that they had found a way of doing that other than like him just kind of ignoring her for a while.
Yes. That sums it up beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. You're right. It had to be clear that it wasn't just being around Daryl and him comforting her was not going to cure her. It hadn't in the past 10 years. She needed something else, and it was for her to process it. But they could have done that with whilst Daryl was still being a bit more friendly. I'm not talking about romantic love or whatever, but just how you would react if it was just someone you cared about, had done this for you. And
Yeah.
when I was trying to think about sort of the metaphors of the show and stuff, and I was thinking about my anger about the lack of close-ups when they're on the bike, and I thought, it's like a metaphor for how they've treated Daryl and Carol. They're afraid to go too close into them, and
Yeah.
really look at them close up, like because it'll show too much. I feel that's
It's why they separated them so much on the
yeah,
show.
exactly, because they knew that if they have to progress in any way, it's going to take them to a place they're not ready to go. So they just have to keep separating them and then bring them back to square one and bring them back. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. It's annoying, but now it's all about them. So
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
it's all about the two
It,
of them.
yeah. This episode was very
And Beth.
clearly yes.
Sorry for anybody who doesn't understand that reference.
Yeah. It's excuse me, this episode was very bringing down the curtain on the France cast, and
Yeah.
like they wanted to give everyone a moment in the spotlight, so they all got it, and that was fine. And I think I would have preferred more of that. And I've said this all along, and I'm not just saying this as a Carol and Daryl shipper, but the Daryl and Isabel romance was completely pointless, added nothing to the story whatsoever, and they could have cut it for a lot more in depth into all of the characters, and that would have been far better. But hey ho, it's done now. We can't change the past.
I just don't understand why all the women had to die.
Yeah, exactly. Why did Sylvie have to die? I can understand why Isabel had to die, because once they made her Daryl's romantic interest, she was doomed.
Yeah.
Because although it really would have been better if Carol had shown up and Daryl had gone, oh right, yeah, no, sorry, I do want to go home.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, he has no choice, he's only, and it does. I understand why people who don't like Carol and Daryl are saying this, and I can understand it, because that's how it does seem, that they're like, oh well, Carol's just second choice because Isabel's dead. You're like, no.
Yeah.
It shouldn't seem that way, and it can seem that way if that's how you want to read it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But I'm glad that Fallou got a good ending.
Yes, me too.
We don't know about Codron.
No, we don't.
He's just out there high on guano.
Maybe they'll do what they did in Fear, and he's just going to pop up again in another country, and he'll be like, "Hello, I found you."
Yeah, yeah, and he's pulled a dead city and found out how to turn guano into a drug,
Yes,
a recreational drug.
recreational drug. Yeah. That's future for Codron there.
Yeah,
It's just a shame that they killed off so many of them. When they could have just had Daryl go, look, I've helped you now, and now I'm leaving. They didn't
yeah,
all have to die for that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was very sad about Sylvie, but yeah, I just don't like that all. I don't know. I just don't like that all the women died.
No,
That's very upsetting. They killed off
it's
too many women.
it's not a good look
No,
for the show.
it's not at all. Yeah, maybe they need a female showrunner.
Yeah, maybe they do.
that would be that might be a good idea.
I'm already disappointed they didn't ask me to consult as the Scottish script consultant. I'm very offended that
How
I wasn't
dare
asked.
they? That's just nonsense.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? But hey, if we're talking female showrunners, I just want to say Latoya Morgan. She's the woman for me.
Yeah.
She is an incredible writer who was also she was like a consultant, I think, on season 11. And she's a big Darren Carl shipper, so she's got a
Yeah.
good taste.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just that, but I think she would, she would understand the characters. Where I'm not convinced that David Zabel did.
No, he makes that clear in every single interview. He sounds like he has never watched the show before.
No,
It's so disturbing. It's so upsetting. Like,
it is.
God, it's almost like he's just showrunner in title only.
Yes, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the way it appears. It's so bizarre.
Yeah,
It's just so bizarre.
The stuff he has said, and I don't think we talked about this on the podcast, but the stuff that he said about Janae and her story, we're like, no, that's not what happened. It's like he's talking
What
about.
did he say?
He said that Janae was just a simple woman who was driven by the fact that her husband died and she didn't get to have babies with him.
What?
Did you miss that? Yep. Yeah.
I'm getting them out. I didn't think I was going to use them. All of them. All of them.
For those listening.
Give me all of them right now. Oh my God. No, yeah, I missed that completely.
Yeah. I was not happy about that at all because, and he said, "Oh, that's why in the season 1 scene where she comes to Fallou's place and she picks up the baby and it's a bit of a creepy scene. He's like, she's thinking about the baby she could have had. What? No, it comes across that she's threatening them." And like they put this whole thing in her backstory about the workers and the strike, and it's about and the episode is called "The Invisible." It's about how she feels that workers were treated and the poor people were treated when the apocalypse happened, and the rich people all got to go off while the poor people were struggling. That's what motivated her.
Yeah.
But no, he used that literal phrase. She was just a simple woman, and I wanted to throat punch him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Don't let him write female characters ever.
No, please no. I just hope Melissa McBride just steamrolls over him in season 3. Seriously. Yes. Oh God, that just makes me want to puke.
Yeah. It really, I thought it was bad whenever, he was talking about Daryl, and I'm like, oh, he's not really got a good handle on Daryl. But then when he said that, I was furious. Like, what?
Oh my God.
And it's just, he has said stuff about Daryl since then and about other characters, and it's just like you don't know these characters at all, and not even that, you don't know what you've written. That's not how what is coming across on screen.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not a good situation at all. It's objectively bad.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I will say that this week he seemed to go from when I think it was when they were at Tribeca and stuff like that. He was talking about and San Diego Comic-Con. He was talking about season 4 and blah blah blah. We might go this. He's not now. He's just talking about season 3. That we're just focusing on season 3. We don't know what'll come after that. So I hope it's not the end of the show, but it is just the end of the showrunner.
Oh God. Well, I mean, they've switched showrunners in mid-season before.
Yes, they have indeed in season 3. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
it's messy.
Yeah, it really is. But yeah, we so obviously that's the end of our oh wait, we got to do Angel Wings and Suspenders.
Oh yes, of course.
Yeah, who gets your angel
Okay,
wings and suspenders this week?
my angel wings, I'm going to give them to Akila for being awesome in one episode. We'd never met her before. She gets Fallou, she kills the men, she gets to go, men.
Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah.
And the suspenders, I'm going to give them to Angus for being a terrible representation of Scotland to the to the French, and for double crossing Daryl and being selfish. No true Scotsman would do that. So
Yeah.
What
I'm
about
gonna
you?
give my suspenders to Jacinda because
Yeah.
she's just a pretty terrible person, and also she just like seems like she was completely in denial about the fact that she was bitten on the arm.
Yeah.
She's still looking sad that the plane is taking off without her.
You're going to be dead in hours anyway, love.
Yeah, and yeah, and I guess I'll give the angel wings to I'll give the angel wings to Carol for
Yay!
jumping out of the plane.
Yeah.
and being, and therefore continuing her journey into season 3.
Yes.
Because otherwise, that would be the end of
Yeah.
her. I
That would be
mean,
the end of it. Yeah.
yeah.
And we're for the fact that she keeps going, even though Daryl's giving her nothing in return.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And for dealing with her shit while high on pigeon shit.
Very good. She had a very good trip.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. But yeah, so obviously this is the last episode of the season for us. But like I said, I would eventually, when things slow down with our other shows,
Yeah.
I would like to do some, couple of
Yep.
bonus
We'll do a
episodes
couple of
here.
Hopefully we'll get. I mean, it's dying down now, but hopefully we'll start to get some build up towards season 3, and we'll when
Yeah.
things start coming out, we'll do some. Once we get screen trailer and stuff like that, we'll be back.
Yeah, for sure. When I was going through our podcast, I also didn't mention I neglected to mention the ones that we are not covering right now, but that we cover when they're on. We also have the Antler Queens, which is actually what started this whole thing, and that is our Yellowjackets podcast. And we have actually just, I'm going to put more out about this soon, but we've just joined the Believe Network. So that's really exciting. The Antler Queens has joined the Believe Network, not Cyborg Queen, but I'll be putting out some more info on that soon. And also we have the Severed Floor coming up soon, which is our Severance podcast. And that's going to be starting as soon. We have four episodes left of season 3 of From, and then we're going to start our season 1 coverage of Severance right after that. And then season 2 starts in January. So that is just a little more than a few months away. So that'll be fun. That'll be cool. We may actually I don't know, we may wait a little bit longer and just cover season 1 right before season 2 starts. I don't know. We'll see we'll try to figure it out. But also don't forget if you're a From fan, to tune into our Sunday night after shows, so you can get a chance to win the cameo from David Alpay, aka Jade. And maybe you'll win a cat shirt as well. I have one myself, and I love my cat shirt. It's very fun. But that's it for us for now, and we hope to see you guys soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.